What's up, everyone? My name is Tyler. You are watching Mom's Basement MMA. And joining me on the program today is a rising middleweight contender in Georgia. He's a guy I'm really, really excited about. He'll be competing at NFC 166 versus Louis Brewington on June 21st. Welcome, Reese Watkins. Appreciate the time. Thank you for spending part of your Saturday with me, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. Thank you.
Reese, there is just a lot of different things about you that stand out to me. Like one of the things is you made your MMA debut only recent. It was just a little over a year ago. You've already won 4 times. You've knocked out 4 different opponents. And can you tell me a little bit, like, how do you feel your game has evolved from your pro debut going into your fifth pro fight? Like, take me like how you've grown as a martial artist over the past year.
I feel my game has evolved. I feel like I'm a lot more diverse striker now. And even though I don't, use my wrestling a lot, I feel like I'm a way better wrestler. And then I think I just have, more. Obviously, I have more experience, but um, I'm going into my fights. I'm not starting as slow. I used to have a problem where I always start slow, like it was coming out like a Muay Thai background. Kind of almost like take a round off almost. So I feel like I'm starting faster. I'm getting to my game plan faster, and I started using a not like a kind of like a it's almost like a Philly shell almost. It's kind of like that cross guard that Dustin uses. I've been using that a lot my last 2 or 3 fights. So I feel like that's been a really big part of my game, and then I've been working on my head movement a lot. So I feel like I'm a much more diverse striker for sure.
One of the things that I find really interesting about you is like there's an army of like supporters that like follow you around and like watch all your fights. Like there's like a passionate group of people that follow your career. Curious, can you tell me about who are these people? And is there like a specific part of where you're from where like that supporter base is maybe a little more rabid compared to some other parts?
Um, I feel like in person, definitely Georgia. Because I'm from Georgia, so around like the Atlanta area and all that. But I'll say like the fan base that I've built kind of originated because I just post like memes and stupid little posts and stuff about fighting, and then I kind of just turned it into like you know post about my fights basically. Because before when I was just posting, I just had like no experience. I had like some amateur fights or whatever, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And then I kind of like started meeting people and started getting more in the fight game. And I'm like, you know what? It's not. It's I started kind of like stop trying to like tear people down with the posts, and so I started making posts like about situations, not about people as much. And then a lot of the audience just stayed from that. So that combined with entertaining fighting style, and then I feel like I have a somewhat unique personality, or maybe not like super unique, but it's definitely newer. Like a lot of MMA personalities and stuff. They're not old, but they're like older than I am, like millennials. So I feel like to for people to see someone around their age, with their same sense of humor, same vernacular, same like culture the same way. I feel like it helps me relate to a lot of people that way.
You are a young dude, a very exciting fighter, athletic, gifted, powerful. I can see like why so many people go out to these fights to watch you perform. I totally get it. And is it kind of a double-edged sword in a way because like you're just starting out, you're just getting out there, you're just getting your feet wet, and it's not unrealistic for me to say you're still a decade away from being in your athletic prime. Does that like with just everything that you've built up and what you've accomplished thus far in your career, is that like a lot of expectations? And is it kind of like difficult to deal with and manage sometimes?
Yeah, it is a lot of expectations. I was telling my coach one time that I actually don't like fighting in Georgia. I just like showing up to a place where people don't really know me, fighting and just going on with like the rest of my night. So it's a lot of expectations, a lot of added pressure. Sometimes like it's on the back of my mind sometimes, but I just really try not to let it get to me. But it definitely weighs on my mind sometimes that I have like a large audience and a lot of expectations. And so I just try to I try to manage it and keep it in check.
You fought last at NFC 164 versus Josh Mercado. He's a talented guy. He was undefeated. And I looked at that. That fight got announced and I circled that because I was like, okay, like we're about to find out this is a tough guy and he's going up against like a young prospect. I'm like, sometimes these like young, exciting prospects, they wilt when they fight guys like this. We'll see what happens. You go end up doing exactly what it is you normally do, which is find the finish. It took you relatively not a long time to do that. You did it in the second round. Can you walk me through how you finished Josh Mercado and what made him a little bit more of a cut above compared to some of the other guys you've been fighting lately?
Well, what made him a cut above a bunch from other guys I was fighting, he was out of a really good gym. He was out of Kill Cliff and Hard Knocks, so I know he had a good team around him, and I know that he was obviously taking the fight seriously. And then had an undefeated record, as a wrestler, and he had a really good ground and pound, heavy hands. He was really strong, and so basically, how my team and I went about chopping that tree down is we just game plan really well. That was like my third southpaw I think in a row or something. So I've been prepping to fight southpaws for a while, and then I've been fighting wrestlers for a long time. And we stuck to the game plan, trying to get him to bite on feints. And then I was talking about, I think the flying knee is gonna be there, some type of knee, but I definitely wanted to be flying knee. And then I just saw it, and really really focused on kind of like mentally breaking him. So if I knew that if I could get him hesitant to implement his own game plan, that would weigh heavily on that would mentally drain him, because wrestlers obviously want to get you to the ground, and so if they shoot and you stuff their takedowns and punish them for that shot, it's going to physically hurt, it's going to mentally hurt them, because their game plan is kind of going awry. So we just worked on making sure he paid for all his mistakes and all his shots, and capitalizing on those openings.
2024, it's been a crazy year. We're not even halfway through it yet. And like looking at you, this will be your third fight of 2024. Translation, you've been in fight camp all year long.
Yeah.
And like, is that exactly how it feels like? Just like one giant fight camp that you've been dealing with? And how are you holding up? Like, how are you feeling physically right now?
I'm getting there. I've had 4 fights, and like I looked at the calendar year, it's like 4 fights in a year plus 4 days or something like that. And then even going back to last year, when I fought in September in ROC, I was supposed to fight again in December. So basically from like November, late October to November to now, I've been in fight camp with nothing but like short, a week or two breaks in between. So it is definitely wearing on my body a bit. I'm dealing with some. No one goes into a fight 100%, so dealing with some things, but it is how it feels like. It is. It gets not old, but you definitely feel it. So after this fight, I'm not going to jump right back in unless it's for like a really big fight, a really big opportunity. Not going to jump right back into something. Going to take some time to let my body heal, and to take some time off sparring. Because that's when injuries and the damage really happens. Is not, and a lot of times it's not in the fights, but it's in camp and in sparring. So to answer your question, yeah, it is how it sounds. It's been a lot. It's been a lot weighing on me, but just grinding through, trying to get myself in that position to have big opportunities. So.
You'll be fighting Louis Brewington, NFC 166, later on this month. I've watched the trailers. I've read some of the things I've been putting out on social media that the promotion has done. I watched that promo that they did with you, and there's a lot of hardcore things that you said about your opponent. And I'm figuring there's like a bigger backstory here. Like, what is it about this guy? Number one, less about Brewington, but I feel like you're taking this fight to prove a point, because I'm looking at this. Him, in my opinion, no disrespect to Louis Brewington. I'm going to be honest. Like, I look at this and I'm like, Mercado, Brewington, that's a step down in competition. And from your end of it, I'm trying to like make sense. Like, what would compel you? What would motivate you to take this fight? And I feel like there's a reason, and I want to know what it is.
First off, it's kind of hard to get. It's harder to get fights at middleweight on the regional scene. It's a weird division, It's there are less people in it, so kind of want to take what I can get. And then with this fight, I was supposed to fight him for my pro debut, and Lewis and I've known Lewis a long time, since I was like 15, 16. At one of the gyms I used to go to, there'd be open sparring on weekends, and he'll come to that. And so, I honestly do not remember how the rounds went because it was, half a decade ago, half a decade or over a decade ago, or not a decade, half a decade, over half a decade ago. But he was talking about, oh, I would piece you up in sparring, yada yada. Yeah, probably, man. I was like 16, 15, 16. So congratulations, bro. And yeah, he's like, oh, I knocked you out in sparring. It never happened, but whatever. And yeah, so that's kind of how I knew him. And then I switched to ATT, and he would kind of train at ATT sometimes. So he would drop in sometimes. And I remember one day he dropped into wrestling practice, and he ended up taking me down somehow. I think off the walls, something, whatever, right? And I was like, okay, whatever, you know. And then later that day, the NFC or someone from the NFC told me that they reached out to Louis about a fight with me, and he was like, "Oh, I beat him, but we're cool, so I can't fight him, even though I beat him." And I'm like, "Well, we're not teammates. We're cool. I have no problem with you, but we're not teammates, so I have no problem fighting you." And I said that, and he didn't like that. He kind of kisses up to people he thinks he's better than, or people that are better than him, and then people he thinks he's better than. He kind of like tries to big brother them. So he was older than me, and then he thought he was better than me. He may have been, who knows? He thought he was better than me at the time, so he kind of tried to like big brother me. I kind of go with it, whatever, just yada yada. At the end of the day, so he took that real personally, and I'm like, it's no beef, no issue, just I'm trying to make this a career, and this is a fight. We're not teammates. We're cool, but there has not have to be any beef. So he took it real personal, and I just started talking and talking and saying all this stuff, and I'm like, okay. And he's kind of never really fought anyone who can out talk him. So I just kind of taken an opportunity that it's a rare opportunity for me to kind of get in his head. So that's kind of how it all started.
Completely understand about the matchup in particular. Louis Brewington, obviously I look at you, I look at your just your stature, your physique, big powerful guy that comes to crack. Is that kind of the game plan against Brewington, to get an early knockout, or do you have some tricks up your sleeve that we might see on fight night?
No, I think I would prefer not to get an early knockout. I prefer to, work some of my game plan and really take the opportunity to try some stuff new, to try some new things. But I know he thinks I can't box with him, which is funny. Because in most of all my fights, all I've really done is strike and outbox people, which is whatever. So definitely I want to work some new stuff, but looking for a finish for sure. But hopefully, like second or third round, I think is when it'll come.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you either buy tickets and go to the event NFC 166 that happens on June 21st, or if they have a pay per view, make sure you take advantage of that as well too. Do you know if they're selling a pay per view if people can't go live?
That'll be on NFCfighting.com. You can get the pay per view. I think it's like $20.
There you go, 20 bucks. Lewis, I wanted to ask you one other thing about Lewis. You get a victory over him. That puts you at a very impressive record, 5-0. I know you said, if it's not like a big fight, if it's not a big opportunity, I'm probably not going to be interested. Probably going to take some time off. But do you have a list of names? Like, are there some guys out there that you look at and you're like, after Lewis, this is who I want?
There's one guy, Clay Witt. His coach, or whatever, was after I fought Josh. His coach commented Clay would smoke both of these dudes, and it was funny because I tried to fight Clay my pro debut, and we never heard back. Never heard back, and so I was like, kind of went off for a second because I'm like, why is your coach kind of talking for you? Your coach is gonna get you in a matchup that, because Clay seems cool. He didn't even know his coach was doing it, but he's like, oh, let's tell the NFC it's in the contract. So Clay Witt for sure for NFC or CFFC, whoever is paying the most, honestly. But Clay Witt, he's 3-0 out of Florida. And then I know Forrest Griffin is going to be there. And if any of the Contender Series guys, well, I'm sure they'll be able to find matchups, But I know, I think one of the 85ers doesn't have a matchup still, because I know there are three of them and they're looking for a fourth one, I think. If he still doesn't have a matchup, and they want someone, I'll hopefully like give me a few weeks, like let my body like recover, and then I'll jump on that. So any of those, sounds good, but those will be ideal.
Yes, sir. Well, Reese, I appreciate your time this afternoon. And before I let you go, I wanted to actually give the mic over to you. I know that there's a lot of like supporters that you might want to thank, and oftentimes there are a lot of like sponsors that help you out, so you're able to perform as often as you do. Who would you like to shout out before I let you go?
Shout out to Barber Orthopedics. Been beat up this camp. They're really helping me with recovery. And then Champ Camp Cookies. They being in camp sucks. Just straight up sucks sometimes. Not being able to have anything sweet or not having a ton of things sweet. But their cookies are like 93 calories or something, like 93 calories, like 7 grams of sugar and some protein in it. So it's cool. And then like the one thing I'm looking forward to having most after my fight is some lemonade for Sisters Lemonades because they support me too. So big shout out to those three people. And yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Well, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you click on the description for this video. Uh, Reese's contact information, his Instagram will be included all in there. And I'll, if I see the pay-per-view on the NFC website, I'll throw it in there too. Make it easy for everybody. Reese, I appreciate you pulling up, and I look forward to having you back on the program real soon, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.